the news part. I want to explain the Green New Deal next. So there's a lot of misnomers flying around with it. So, basically, the Green New Deal is an idea to decarbonize the United States economy. So what does that mean? That means basically that they want to stop fossil fuels from being so prevalent and so critical to us, and transition to non-carbon sources, and they want to have net zero emissions by 2050. So it's important to note that the Green New Deal is an idea, it's a concept that is being implemented. And out of that concept, there have been two things. There's a Senate resolution introduced by Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and Ed Markey, which I'll go over. And there's also the thing that's being proposed by Mitch McConnell. So it's important to say the Green New Deal is not like it's an idea, and now it's being implemented into reality, or it's being attempted to be implemented. So the Green New Deal, the AOC, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez introduced, was a 14-page resolution, and I read it. I'll save you the dignity of reading it yourself. I took 2 pages of bullet point notes on the Green New Deal, and we'll go over that now. So it was introduced. This is the House resolution. This is not the Senate resolution. It's the House resolution. So the House resolution was introduced by Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who I'll refer to as AOC, and Senator Ed Markey. So one of the first things the document says is that it explicitly says that it is the duty of the federal government to create a Green New Deal. So what does this mean? Well, it means that if the House passes this, then it'll become the duty of the government to pass an actual Green New Deal, actual proposal, because this is not the final Green New Deal. This is okay. So it's like this is creating the framework that will become the Green New Deal. That is what it is right now, and so it says that it's the federal government's duty to create a Green New Deal. And I like that they said federal government, because that means that, well, basically Congress has to pass it. And interestingly enough, about the House resolution that AOC introduced, it doesn't have to pass the Senate or the President. It's a House resolution. So if the House passed it, then it'd be passed. That'd be the resolution. It'd be done. And then it would go to a vote. Or no, it would go through probably a Senate Environment and Public Works Committee to create actual 100, 200-page legislation, and then it go through the House and the Senate and the President. So this is just a House resolution that needs to be passed. And in the House, they have about 80 votes, 80 co-sponsors, 84 or something. And so if it passes that, if support continues to increase, it's got pretty good standards, or it's on pretty good pathways. We only need like 200 supporters to pass it, a little over 200. We have 80 right now. So the report, the House resolution references a report by the IPCC, or the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change in the United Nations, and they referenced the report that found that, four main things. One is that human activity is causing anthropogenic global warming, which is a scientific term for human-made, man-made climate change. And climate change is causing sea levels to rise, increase in wildfires, severe storms, drought, and other extreme weather events that are detrimental to humanity. Third, it found that global warming of 2 degrees Celsius or above will cause mass migration, more than $500 billion lost in economic output by 2100, wildfires that are twice as impactful in 2050 than in 2019 and before, a loss of 99% of coral reefs, 350 million people to be exposed to potentially deadly heat stress, and the risk of $1 trillion in damaged infrastructure. And lastly, it found that in order to avoid all these, we must reduce emissions by around 50% less than 2050 levels by 2030 and have net zero emissions by 2050. So that's what the IPCC report found, which was the basis for this Green New Deal. And that's all pretty bad. I don't know about you, but like wildfires that are twice as impactful in 2050 than in 2019 does not sound appealing to me, especially because I live in California, so that's going to impact me a lot. And we already saw how bad the Paradise wildfires in California were last year. Imagine something twice as bad as that. That's just terrible. By the way, if you have any questions, if you're on Instagram, just type them below. And if you're on YouTube, just put them in the comment section. We'll reply to everyone, both on Instagram and YouTube. So the report continues to say that the United States is responsible for 20% of global emissions, and this is why it's critical to act on it. I find that interesting. So the United States is responsible for 20% of global emissions, but it only makes up 4% of the global population, right? So you'd expect China to be responsible for 20% of emissions, which I think they are, or India, or something like that. But the United States, with only 300 million people, is responsible for about the same amount of emissions as a country with 1 billion people. So it's quite obvious that the United States is, in a really bad way, a leader in being bad about climate change here. And that's why I have to address it. Again, put your questions in the comments. We'll answer everything. So the House resolution discusses that although the United States is a world leader, many crises are making it hard for the United States to maintain that position. One of these crises is climate change. Okay, so that's obvious. Of course they'd say that. But then this also gets into environmental justice and democratic socialism, when it says that another crisis is stagnating wages, and then income inequality, the gender pay gap, the racial wealth divide, all that stuff is also mentioned. So it not only discusses climate change, but also environmental justice and social justice in general. Environmental justice is basically the fact, trying to fix the fact that typically marginalized groups are suffering the brunt of environmental destruction. That's not environmental justice. And I want to emphasize the next point. Climate change in this document is referred to as a direct threat. So it's not something down the line. It's not something in the future. It's a direct threat to us. By the way, I'm looking at my laptop right now, where I have all my notes and stuff. 2 pages of notes on the Green Deal. So climate change is a direct threat. I don't know about you, but I don't like direct threats. I like to address direct threats I like to address things before they become direct threats, you know? And as a reference to his name, the Green New Deal references the New Deal, now greatly helped the middle class in America as a whole. So, if you watch PragerU or ascribe to that twisting of facts, you might think that the New Deal was bad for the American economy, but in reality it saved it. And it quite possibly saved America from delving into fascism. But that's something for a different time. See, this is interesting. In the Green New Deal, it says that net zero emissions are supposed to be achieved through a, quote, fair and just transition for all communities and workers. So this ties into democratic socialism, which AOC and Bernie Sanders are a part of, where it doesn't want the government to force this onto people. It doesn't want to unfairly hurt people. It wants a fair and just transition for all communities and workers. So what would that mean, for example? Well, a lot of times as mentioned is the coal farmers in West Virginia, as if they represent a large percentage of the population. Actually, hang on. Let me see something. So, the coal farmers in West Virginia are often the coal workers in West Virginia are often seen to be these like people like, oh, climate change and environmental action is going to hurt these coal workers. But in reality, only 13,000 people work in coal in West Virginia. So 13,000, let's do some math. 13,000 divided by 330 million, which is roughly the same population. That means that, oh god, that's such a tiny number. I can't even... Christ. Okay, hang on. Okay, it's such a small number that my calculator is not showing me the exact thing. I think it's 0.003% of people in America are coal workers in West Virginia. So if you're conservative or you're against climate change action, stop using the coal farmers out of Virginia. They don't represent a significant part of the population of anything. But going back to those coal workers, the Green New Deal calls for a fair and just transition for all communities and workers. So those coal workers, they wouldn't suddenly have the rug pulled out from underneath them and be like, all right, get a job. You're shut down. Go home. That's it, guys. It wouldn't be like that. It would be like guaranteeing them a new job for solar or possibly universal basic income. It doesn't mention it here, but that might be something that will come with it. And making sure that their livelihoods are, secured. Because there's no point in trying to help people if people aren't going to be helped. So that's what this wants to do. And speaking of helping people, the Green New Deal calls for millions of high wage and good jobs to be created. So, again, this goes back to the coal workers, but a lot of times people say that renewable energy is going to kill jobs, but that's not true. I mean, according to the International Energy Agency, between 2.5 and 5 times as many jobs are created by renewable energy than by fossil fuels. So, where are the jobs being lost? Where's the unemployment from renewable energy? Where is it hurting the economy? Because I don't want to see anywhere. Maybe you can point out for me. So the Green New Deal calls for securing clean air and water, climate and community resiliency, healthy food, access to nature, and a sustainable environment. All stuff that seems pretty basic to me. I mean, what's controversial about securing clean air and water? I'm drinking clean water right now. Oh, sorry, Howard Schultz. This is not about you. This is not an endorsement of you. This is one of the cheapest mugs I can find. And it's like it's sitting in my house. Speaking of Howard Schultz, this is not an endorsement. We don't support Starbucks. We're not against Starbucks either. Speaking of Howard Schultz, he called the Green New Deal immoral. And probably inachievable or something like that. And I mean, Howard Schultz, what's up with you? How could the Green New Deal be immoral? How is, if anyone, seriously, I'm not trying to attack you. If anyone can tell me how the Green New Deal is bad or immoral or strange or harmful, please tell me. Put in the comments if you want. If you watch us on Instagram, tell me why the Green New Deal is bad. Ask you to join a live stream, and I promise you, I will add you to the stream so that you are talking. I'll live stream with you, and we can debate. We can discuss this. How is securing clean air and water immoral? I mean, what am I seeing? Is this a different Green New Deal? Let me clean my glasses. What? Where's the immoral part of this? How is healthy food immoral? How is access to nature immoral? How is a sustainable environment immoral? How is climate community resilience immoral? How are millions of good highways jobs immoral? How are calling for the rights of indigenous people to be recognized and observed immoral? I'm sorry, I don't get it. What? If you can tell me how the Green New Deal is immoral, either in the comments or on the stream, I will live stream with you. I don't care when, I don't care where. I will live stream with you and discuss this with you, educate you, debate you, whatever you want. Because I don't know about you, but not having clean air and water is pretty immoral to me. Wow. Trump called for Democrats to relax in a tweet the other day, and oh my god, how can I relax when 350 million people are going to be exposed to potentially deadly heat stress? How can I relax when 1 billion people don't have access to clean water? How can I relax when all this stuff is happening? So, yeah, maybe I'm passionate, maybe I'm angry, but this is the Earth we're talking about. And we haven't colonized Mars yet. We still live here. We can't just keep polluting it. So the Green New Deal also calls for 100% of the power demand in the United States with renewables achieved with smart grids and upgraded technology. This is a point I see a lot. Some people say that the grid just isn't ready for renewables yet. Well, it is. I mean, there's no evidence that it isn't ready. I've seen reports that we can upgrade to 80% renewable energy right now, and we're not talking about that. We're not talking about 80% renewable energy right now, or even by 2030. We're talking about reducing emissions by 2030 and then 100% by 2050. At this rate, solar panels are twice as cheap now than they were in 2010. So if we're talking about technology, I mean, the technology is mostly already here, but it's continuing to improve every day. So you might have seen some Fox News stuff about Green New Deal banning cow farts. That's a load of, well, speaking of cows, the Green New Deal wants to work with farmers. It specifically says it wants to work with farmers to reduce emissions as much as is technologically possible. So obviously we're not going to ban cow farts. Obviously we're not going to ban cows. We just want to make sure there's no unsustainable practices that are occurring right now. The Green New Deal also calls for an investment in public transportation, including high-speed rail. And this was, I think, misconstrued by Fox News and conservative news sites. What they said was that, or what they implied is that, the Green New Deal wants to make air travel obsolete. But I mean, yeah, okay, so yeah, maybe air travel will be obsolete. How is that? If air travel, okay, so it costs a little over $300, to fly from California to New York right now. If public transportation or high-speed rail, whatever, got that cost down to $200, how is that not good for the American people? Yeah, air travel will be obsolete. Horse travel is obsolete after cars came out. I mean, boat travel was obsolete when planes came out. So maybe high-speed rail will make plane travel obsolete. What's wrong with that? I want things that are better for me. I want to travel across the country faster and cheaper. So I'm sorry. This is a little irritating for me. So, if you notice, the Green New Deal wants to have net zero emissions. That's his ultimate goal. Not zero emissions, net zero emissions. So what's the difference? Well, these numbers are not real. But say that we have 5 metric tons of CO2 being emitted, okay, and we can't reduce that. Maybe let's say that's cow stuff or whatever, or stuff we can't really get rid of, bomb testing, whatever. I don't care. 5 metric tons of CO2 is being released. So this is zero. So 5 metric tons is being released. So net zero, we have to be here. So then, if we have soil carbon sequestration, or planting trees, stuff like that, that'd be negative 5 metric tons released. So we have 5 metric tons being released with something else, and negative 5 metric tons being released with everything. Negative 5 plus 5 is 0. That's net zero emissions. That's the ultimate goal of the Green New Deal. Because it's not really possible to have completely zero emissions by 2030. We're not even calling for that. It's just net zero emissions by 2050, I believe. Another controversial and immoral part of the Green New Deal is that it wants to restore ecosystems and preserve biodiversity. How is that bad? It explicitly calls for using technology to make the United States a world leader in helping other countries to create a Green New Deal of their own. So it doesn't want to diminish the power of the United States. What's that? Help it again. This is interesting. This is we kind of touched on this early, but as is the policy of democratic socialism, the goals of the Green New Deal are described as done with, quote, the use of democratic and participatory processes that are inclusive of and led by frontline and vulnerable communities of workers. So what does that mean? Well, it means that they want people that are impacted by climate change to act on it. Okay? So, like, if Well, I guess I'm agreeing two things. Well, for one, the first point is that they don't want to force this onto the people. They want the people to vote for it, so vote for candidates that support this. Um, and they also want it to be implemented by people who are impacted by it. So, like in Florida, where sea levels rise in Miami just way too much, you can't even walk across the road sometimes. They would want people in Miami to implement solutions there. That will be the goal. That is democratic socialism. That is community involvement. So yeah, getting the people to do work for themselves. So the word globalist is often thrown around when talking about democratic socialists and environmental policies, but the Green New Deal wants to, and this is a quote, I'm not summarizing this, a direct quote, to stop the transfer of jobs and pollution overseas and to grow domestic manufacturing in the United States. So the Green New Deal calls for helping the American economy and keeping jobs in America and keeping pollution in America. So it's slightly protectionist ideals, but it'll work. So it also calls for the consent of indigenous people to be called for when it comes to decisions affecting them. That seems like a no-brainer, right? But it's often not recognized. So pipelines built through tribal land, such as the Keystone XL pipeline, a lot of times the tribes aren't okay with that. So this Green New Deal will call for recognizing the rights of indigenous people to be recognized. Which, again, how is that immoral? How is it immoral to want to involve someone in a decision that's going to impact them? Again, I'm open to debate. And any day of the week, any time, any platform you want, I will debate you. So the Green New Deal document wraps up by calling for every person in the United States to have four things: high quality healthcare, affordable, safe, and adequate housing, economic security, and access to clean water, clean air, healthy and affordable food, and nature. So I assume high quality healthcare for them might mean Medicare for all, but this is more about social justice issues being implemented in the Green New Deal as opposed to the Green New Deal instituting Medicare for all. Access to clean water, clean air, healthy food, access to nature. This is all pretty no-brainer stuff to me. So we're a little over time now. I didn't expect to go this long, but before we wrap it up, do you have any questions, anybody? Questions or comments? So, I'm gonna talk a lot. It's gonna be a mouth dry. So, as of February 15th, 2019, this House resolution has 84 House co-sponsors and 11 Senate co-sponsors. So I mentioned that before, but it's getting a lot of support in Congress. It would fail right now. It would pretty obviously fail right now, but it's getting more popularity. So AOC, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, described this as an investment in the nation, such as with infrastructure. Because for every $1 you put in infrastructure, which is called for in the Green New Deal, you get, I think, $3 back. And for every $1 you put in tax cuts, you lose money. So this is definitely an investment in the nation. It would help it a lot. And Ed Markey was asked, Senator Ed Markey, he's one of the people that were the main co-sponsors. He mentioned that as technology neutral, so they don't call one specific thing to transition away from fossil fuels. So what this means is that they don't say that we need 100% solar power by 2030, or we need all wind power by 2030. It's technology neutral. It calls for renewable energy and net zero emissions. How does that happen? Who knows? Let the free market decide. Let innovation decide. It just wants to get these goals. So, kind of ties back to my previous point that the Green New Deal is a series of goals, and this House resolution would be solidifying those goals and making us work towards them. So, that's the Green New Deal. If you have any questions, let me know. If you have any debate, let me know. If you want to debate, let me know. I recommend you watch as many videos as you can about this. I also recommend you read the actual thing, because I think a lot of people are talking about it when they haven't read it. I've read it twice over. It's only 14 pages. Read it yourself. Might be surprised. So, that was fun. We went overtime. I wanted this to be like 20 minutes long, but I think it was like 35. Let me see. That's all the news for this week. Green New Deal. Please call your senator. One of my senators is Kamala Harris. She supports the Green New Deal. Another of my senators is Dianne Feinstein. I'm going to call her later today. Just like hit her up later today. Dianne, what's up? But call your senator about the Green New Deal. And a lot of times you can just leave a voicemail for the assistant. You can say, literally, okay, let me think. What can I say? So you can say, hello, Senator Mitch McCoyle. Please support the Green New Deal. Climate change is a socioeconomic and existential threat to our nation, and will cost us dearly in the time to come. 350 million people will be exposed to deadly conditions. It is a socioeconomic and national security threat to our nation, and I strongly recommend you take action on it. Thank you. That's all. Just say something short like that, and call your senator about it. We really got to apply the pressure, because this is, to quote Captain America, this is the fight of our lives. There really isn't much in the world that's more direct and important than existential and climate change. I mean, sorry, that's my phone. A lot of issues can be solved in the future. Income inequality can be solved in the future. Sorry, Income inequality can be solved in the future. Infrastructure can be solved in the future. Climate change, for every day we don't solve it, we have so much more problems. And if we the effects that the things we're doing now will affect us decades to come. It's a very slow, the earth is very slow to react to changes. But the momentum is crazy. So, that's the Green New Deal. Call your senator. Call a representative. Call everybody you can. Call your grandma. I don't care. We gotta get this Green New Deal passed. We gotta start this momentum, because if we don't, then we're screwed. So, that's all for today. Thanks for watching. As always, you can find more information in the description below. If you're on YouTube, if you like this video, please like and subscribe. It really helps us out. You can also follow us on Instagram at Ecocentric. Well, that's all for me. That's your turn to save the world. See you next week, guys. Thanks for watching.